I came up with a new show idea, Lubie. And it's going to be a show entitled Loan Shark Tank, where we have like 5 loan sharks on one side, and the people come in, these bust out degenerate gamblers come in, and they try to negotiate better terms on some kind of a loan and also secure the loan, even though their reputations may not match up with what would be considered spot on credit. And then you got some guy coming in there going, hey, listen, I'm looking for $600 at 2 points a week. I'm telling you, I'm going to pay you back. I know my reputation is not necessarily exemplary. And, then the loan sharks start picking them apart. It's like, well, what are you talking about, Johnny? 2 points a week. That's laughable. It's 7 points a week just to talk to me. What do you think?
I think it would be classic.
And you get the music going. The guy comes out. He's clearly in need of the money. And they get that dun, 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 dun. And you got some guy that looks like Vito. He's Mr. Wonderful's chair, and Mr. Wonderful's chair, and he's just looking at the guy like, what a watermelon.
I was gonna say you have to have at least one of the people or behind them enforcers, at least either behind them or off to the side
with that face, that the enforcer always has. Like, let me at him. How about a little taste of pain?
The beginning of every episode, it's a guy that fucking didn't pay last week, so they have to send a message. Shit beat out of him, He's in some trash can peeling himself out. Man, here's last week's deadbeat. What do you think? Did I get some money to produce this thing? Is somebody going to steal the idea? I was afraid to unveil it here on the show because I thought it was brilliant. I think it's funny.
Loan Shark Tank.
The time. Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Dun, dun. Dun, 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 dun. That would be cool. I don't know if I'll be able to pull it off, Lubie. Some of the best ideas just go to waste. They evaporate up into thin air and into, the collection of great ideas that have never been acted on. Right? It's like a guy's always telling you, hey, yeah, I could do that. And you ask him, so what station are you on? And they say, well, none right now. The Greek always mentions that. And unfortunately, we're bordering on being in this category where, he says, if you're not making money doing a podcast, then you have a hobby.
True.
And, you definitely don't want to be doing this as a hobby, but, it has a certain appeal. I'm not sure that the idea wouldn't go cold after a while, but I'm thinking if you were on once a week with that and you only did one guy, you probably could go at least a year before you ran out of stuff that
out of the
would be entertaining. The thing with Vito, too. I remember Vito, even when you were on good terms with Vito, which was rare, where, you didn't get the nod from Eddie, like, oh, okay, Vito, go ahead and just tweak this guy a little bit, like grab him by the neck. He would shake your hand and do it in a way. And that was, I guess, part of the philosophy of being an enforcer or subliminal action of being an enforcer. He'd shake your hand and you would be trembling in pain for the next 15 minutes, but you would have to act like it was fine.
Yep, 100%.
Like one of those guys that gives you a super hard high five and you're thinking, did you have to break my fucking hand with that? I mean, I know you just, hit a bet, but Jesus Christ. Good to be with you guys. Good morning, everybody. Jeff DeForest. We got Mike Lubie. Lubitz. Later on today, we have Texas Roadhouse sponsoring Old School with Tony Segreto.
Yes, sir.
And Ed Garcia is going to join us. A lot of excitement as around the corner here, Lubie. I'm already looking at an early line on the Florida State Georgia Tech game
next week from Ireland.
Wow. What do you make of your Florida State Seminoles this year? What's the prospectus on the Seminoles? From you, who usually is overwhelmingly cautious in making predictions about teams that you like, even if they're loaded, even if they can't miss, even if they're a cinch to be in a national championship game, which they should have had a shot at it last year. I mean, that was disgusting what happened. The expansion is on now to 12 teams. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work or what kind of look that's going to be. Do teams have a bye in the first round? How many games are going to be played in the first round?
The
4 games?
Bye. The next 8 will play the first round.
Okay. And so there'll be some debate about who deserved to have the bye, which you would imagine it's pretty easily easy to deduce that would be a huge advantage, not having to play an extra game. What do you think? I mean, have you taken a look at any overviews of what's going to happen with the Florida State Seminoles this year? I'm not sure what to make of the Canes.
Yeah.
Mario Cristobal doesn't thrill me as a head coach. Supposedly a great recruiter. They have all kinds of talent. They got that quarterback to come in here who's is supposedly great. And everybody's dumping on the Florida Gators' chances this year, saying that the Gators are going to be weak and that the coach is in trouble, that he's got the Ed Ogeron tag being on the hot seat. What do you think? Seminoles contenders this year, Louis?
Well, I mean, they're contenders. They actually, for a year, they lost a lot of talent. They did bring back a lot of guys. They've done a good job at keeping guys enticed and not entering the guys that they want to not enter the portal. They got their first top 10 recruiting class, which again won't do much for this year, but it shows momentum. And they did really well in the portal. I mean, overall quality of talent. They're the most talented transfer group again. And Norvell got himself paid, and he got himself national attention by going undefeated and getting fucked for the playoffs. And he was, if not number one, the number 2 choice to replace Nick Saban. So, and he turned them down to stay at Florida State. So that was a big thing for Florida State. And he's shown what he can do. I mean, in year 3, they win 10 games. Year 4, they go undefeated, which the biggest FSU fan wouldn't have expected that, especially not having your quarterback for the last month. And some of the toughest games you're supposed to have going on the road to Florida, going to playing a top 10 to 15 team in Louisville without your starting quarterback. I mean, to be able to galvanize like that was impressive. They go and bring in Uiagalelei. A lot of people remember him from Clemson, being a guy that was a 5-star that didn't pan out. At Oregon State, he changed things around a lot. He was one of the better quarterbacks in the country. He was very safe with the football, but he also has a lot of physical talent. And he chose Florida State. He didn't go anywhere else. He flirted with the NFL, but he wanted to come and play for Mike Norvell, and FSU accepted him. And all reports are that he's soaring. And the defense is going to be scary. And the offense should be really interesting in this is year 5 for Mike Norvell.
Is it 5 years already? Are you kidding me? I remember when we had him on when he first got the job.
We'll have him on soon. I'll reach out to them this week.
And you were reluctant also to embrace him, even in that interview, as I recall. Did you insult him in that interview? I don't think you did.
Once we were interviewing him, I liked him because it took me a while to read up on him. I'd heard a lot of stuff from a lot of people about the Memphis coaches, because the guy that Justin, I forgot it, the one that was Fuente that went to Virginia Tech was just not working out. So a lot of people were just saying, well, that's just Memphis. Which isn't true. Norvell took Memphis to a place that even Fuente hadn't taken them. They won their first conference title under Norvell, and he just showed a knack to hire coaches. And that's something we've seen at Florida State. Even when guys leave, he just replaces them with a panache. Their schedule is not easy. They do play Notre Dame. They do play Clemson, and Clemson should be better this year. This is a big year for Dabo. They've been on the decline for the last 2 to 3 years, and there's only so long you can do that without people starting to question you. The Clemson faithful are
doubting Dabo. They're
already starting to question him. I mean, because again, he doesn't take transfers, and he's lost those 2 offensive minds, and he lost his great defensive mind that's now with Oklahoma. So ever since all that's happened, Clemson sort of slid. So, but they have a lot to prove this year. Florida State did finally beat them last year for the first time in a while. Miami should be better this year. Florida is playing for their coaches' lives, to be honest. The ACC, I think, is better. It has 4 teams in the top 25, and I think it'll be even better than that. You add in an SMU who won, I think, 11 games last year, and FSU will have to play them. Cal is interesting. I think FSU plays them. So their schedule's not easy. I don't see an undefeated season, but I think they're going to be interesting. I mean, they're top 10 in every poll. I think they should be. I think they've stocked up the talent. Now, the offensive line is going to be one of the best offensive lines in the country, and the defensive line, for all they lost, is going to be one of the best defensive lines in the country. And as we know, that's where you win. And that's where Jimbo struggled at the end, was he wasn't recruiting the offensive line. And Norvell, Coach Atkins, our offensive coordinator, offensive line coach, has really gone after it on the offensive line. And they should have one of the better running games in college football, which they've had for the last few years. And I think it's going to be another 10-win season. Do they do how much more than that? I don't know. It's interesting because their schedule, last year's schedule was cake. The schedule was easier. It's one of the easiest schedules I've ever seen. Their schedule literally is tough to find what should be a loss. I don't trust Cristobal. I just don't at this point. Like, they've recruited well. They've had easy schedules. And they won 7 games last year and lost to fucking an average Rutgers team. And they were getting bludgeoned in that bowl game until the end versus Rutgers. Like, you had Cam Ward, who's a really good quarterback, but he's turnover prone. which isn't the kind of thing that's great for a crystal ball because he likes to take weird fucking chances. So he's going to put the guy in positions he shouldn't. So a turnover prone quarterback, I think, will just turn it over more. I have major questions for him and major questions for them. I think at minimum, you win 8 or 9 games with this schedule. And I think if they don't win 10, it'll be a disappointment. I mean, people are picking them to win 11 games, not because they're going to be so great, because their schedule sucks. Like, it's really a joke, the schedule that they have for the second straight year. So he set himself up where if he wins 10, 11 games, he'll be like, okay, finally. And if he doesn't, he's not going to get fired, but he will be, talk about Ed Orgeron, he'll be on a massive hot seat. So
they'll never fire this guy.
Well, yeah, I mean,
they owe him too much money. I mean, how many more mistakes can they make? Supposedly, this is a program that is scavenging around for the capital to pay assistant coaches. That was always the narrative with the University of Miami. Well, you know what? Well, and that changed, I guess, when Mark Richt came in.
Yeah.
Cristobal as a game day coach is horrendous. I don't think there's any other way to put it. I'm not sure. Maybe he'll learn his lesson or whatever, but he's been around long enough and a head coach at top programs.
Well, he's been these issues going back to
this one.
He sort of had these issues.
Yeah.
Oregon, he definitely had these issues. Like Oregon, you would watch and go, how the fuck did they lose that game? Like the year where they should have been a playoff team and they found a way to lose by like 30 to fucking Utah.
I mean, last year was a classic example. I mean, with the fumble Ruski.
He's never going to get over that. I don't know. Look, I think they'll have a better year. They have a lot of talent. The defensive line is fucking loaded. The offensive line should be good. Cam Ward is a legit quarterback. He should be their best quarterback they've had since Cristobal's there. The skill position talent's a little weak, which is weird for a Miami team. And that's actually the big question mark is the running backs are solid, but they're not great. And the receivers aren't really good at all. Their best receiver is a guy that would be like a fifth receiver on most teams. The little guy, and he's a good receiver. Don't get me wrong. Restrepo is a good receiver, but like,
I like that kid.
He's a good receiver.
I don't know if he'd be the fifth receiver.
He's not your number fucking. He's not. Put it this way: on a Georgia and Alabama, the guy's not a 1 or a 2. But put it this way: Florida State this year is turning over receivers, and he would be FSU's third receiver. Like Restrepo's a really good receiver, but your slot guy, it should never be your 1 or your 2. Sorry, especially in college, especially in Miami with all this. Literally, all these receivers are going nationwide. Florida State and Florida aren't getting a lot of them, but Miami's getting none of them. Like
very surprising.
This class, they finally got the guy Trader out of Chaminade, but he's a fucking freshman. Like none of the guys that they're going to be playing are a top level. Like literally, Georgia's number 1 was their number 1 teams, and I think they'll do that. They'll win 9 or 10 games.
Well, Cristobal proved himself to be a fool again. I remember when Butch Davis was coaching UM and had taken over from Dennis Erickson after Jimmy was there.
Yeah.
And you thought, this guy's not a great game day coach. There was a lot of chaos on the sidelines. I remember that first year.
That's Davis's issue. That was always his problem.
It wasn't a tremendous game day coach. Cristobal seems to be an horrendous game day coach. I mean,
it's not great.
Butch looks like Lombardi compared to this guy. During his tenure at the University of Miami, I don't know, in North Carolina, maybe he got better as a game day coach. He seemed to get good results, but Cristobal is, I mean, mysterious as a game day coach. You can't. It's one thing to look at like a Brandon Staley and know that he's always going for it in stupid situations, or maybe even some of that can be said about Mike McDaniel, where the old adage that we swear by, and I think everybody in sports should take a look at it. It's the most simplistic thing. Don't get cute. When you think you have it going, I mean, you have to be innovative, yes, but there are times where the simplest thing is to just go ahead and take what's there. If it's just grinding out some yardage in the running game to run some clock at the end of a ball game, just fucking do it, right?
Cristobal's problem is the opposite. Like, he's too conservative, and he's not at fucking Wisconsin. Like, he's recruited like it's a Big Ten team, big offensive line, big, strong defensive line, and the skill position talents and their game plans. And that's what's interesting about Ward coming here. Like, the quarterbacks have struggled mightily. The way he and his coaches have coached quarterback, every quarterback's gone backwards. Like, and their game plans are so rudimentary. Like, it's all 3 yards and a cloud of dust shit. Like, if you can stop the run, they have no shot. And that's a weird way to coach in 2024.
Yes, absolutely.
Especially, it's a weird way to coach down here.
It's Stone Age.
Miami in the 80s. Miami in the 80s wasn't coaching that kind of football. Like, so that's
Shelley revolutionized the game to an extent.
Look, there's nothing wrong with having a good run game. FSU is big on that. Atkins is huge on the run game. But if you watch them, they open it up. Like, you have to be able to open it up a little bit. And I'm curious if Cam Ward is a guy that can throw the ball around and he can run, so he can open things up. I would presume if he's coming here, he expects that to happen, like to be a run-based, old-school 1960s offense. Like, good luck with what the ACC has a lot of teams that can fucking score. So I don't know. I have major questions with him. I think they do get 9 or 10 wins, but he just scares me. I mean, I
don't see him winning championships.
I don't know what to do with him.
Naturally, could happen. I'm not sure that playing a completely weak and vapid schedule, necessarily equates out to winning a championship either. Don't you have to be tested somewhere along the way, Lubie, during the regular season?
Oh, for championships. Yeah,
although, Michigan last year, look, the first 10 games were garbage. Everybody was saying, when are they going to play somebody? Even Tony was giving it to Ed Garcia on the show. Yeah, which I shuddered. I'm thinking, Tony, don't piss this guy off. He's a major sponsor of the program here. Not that we want to do a total shill job. Oh yeah, we love this restaurant. That kind of thing. Anyway, good overview, Lubie, of the college football season.
Florida, I don't know what the fuck to do with Florida. Their schedule is utterly ridiculous.
People are inclined to believe that this will be it. That they're going to reach a point where they're going to cut ties with the coaching staff and start again from scratch. I have seen nothing very favorable. I wouldn't be able to tell you if that was accurate or not, and we'll find out. I'm always assuming that they're going to have at least a representative team, but all of the reports that I've seen so far pretty much dismiss the chances of the Florida Gators of amounting to much of anything as a factor this year in college football. Anyway, that gets underway, next week, Lubie? Unbelievable. Right around the corner from Florida State taking the field for the first time. So that's coming up. We have a full slate of NFL preseason games on tap.
Yes.
I don't know what to make of any of that from my betting standpoint. And since I started this thing, 2-0, by the way, Lubie, in my selections on Bury Your Bookie. I probably should suspend the operations of the show before today. I may have to, because I'm going to punch up my first guest on my own here from the technical side, which
they're just there. As long as they send them the link, you don't have to do anything. There's nothing for you to do.
No, I have to punch them in, as it turns out. They have a new system now. Yeah.
Okay.
It's actually a better system where you can have a guy kind of standing by, and he's there, and you can bring him in when you want to. So I remember, when we were doing this stuff on No Filter, and we would have a guest, and the guy, as soon as he signed in, his picture was, and you could be in the middle of something that was going to take another 5-6 minutes to get out of, or to finish off whatever explanation it was that you were working on, if you could make a point at all. And the guy's just sitting there looking goofy into the camera, which, it was kind of strange. And the people that had to be, they had to be mystified viewing this stuff, saying, who the fuck is that guy? And when are they going to bring him into the play? So we'll see what happens with that. I don't know. I'm not overwhelmingly confident, but I think I'm going to be able to pull it off. If I don't, I'm in trouble, because I don't have another selection. But last night reminded me of the year that I had watching baseball several seasons ago. It was almost Sarny-esque, the way that I was approaching this thing, because I was probably in, and I think this was the most fascinating betting pool I've ever been involved in. And we talked about it a lot that year, Lubie, probably to the point of nauseum on your end, where you're thinking, who cares about this guy's losing bets? Is there anything more boring?
Oh, no.
And somebody going over their losing bets from, and especially when you have no context whatsoever. It's not like they're talking about how they got beat by a nose in the Belmont Stakes, a race that everybody saw. They're talking about a card game or something, and they go, oh, well, you know what? I had pocket twos. And you're thinking, of what meaning is this to anybody? None. Zero. Same thing about talking about losses pretty much in any sport, unless the other people also felt your pain. But I wanted to get off to a good start there, and I took a shot last night with the Nationals on the road against the first-place Baltimore Orioles. The Orioles in a situation where they, are in a dead heat with the New York Yankees. The Yankees were playing the White Sox, and they had just gotten clobbered the night before, so you had to assume that they were going to find a way to bounce back. The White Sox have won like 28 games this year. They're not going to continue pounding the Yankees. That seemed a very unlikely scenario, and I think they went off almost 3-1 underdogs in a baseball game, which is really, really weird. Seeing a lot of big discrepancies in baseball betting odds because of the fact that you have some really shit teams in Major League Baseball. The Marlins would appear to be one of them, although they're winning now, which is scaring me a little bit, Lubie. I know you did the math on this.
You're fine.
If we lose this bet, then that's it. I give up gambling forever. the under 79 on the Marlins for the season, where you did the equation yesterday, or the
won 35 fucking games of 43.
Yeah, have to go like 34 and 8.
Yeah,
So Jake Berger, how did he not get traded before the deadline? I mean, somebody made a big mistake because since the deadline, he's the hottest player in baseball.
They kept him. They're like, oh, fuck.
Probably pissed off, yeah.
We could have gotten something for this guy. What did we do?
He's hitting home runs every night. Looking great. A very likable guy. I mean, if you've seen any interviews with Jake Berger, he just seems like the perfect guy you would want to be able and happy to be in the major leagues, even with a minor league team like the Marlins. Now, of course, when he came here, he helped spark a playoff run, which was great.
Yeah. It was huge.
And Josh Bell, that was a Kim Ng, move that turned out to be very, very fortuitous. Yep. And unfortunately, we brought in this other guy who's stripped the entire team down to zero.
Yes.
Literally, they are playing guys with like clown numbers. Like if you were watching a Savannah Banana game, the guy's wearing 13 and a half.
0-0.
You're thinking, is that a fucking number on a baseball player, or is that a shoe size? What are we talking about?
My God.
They're wearing bowling shoes. They don't even have spikes. I mean, equipment is even at stake here in terms of being able to afford it with the Marlins. And now they're winning. They beat the fuck out of the Phillies last night, 5-0. Berger, another home run. I think he has 13 home runs since the All-Star break.
Oh, jeez.
And that is the most by any player in that span of time. Jake Berger of the Marlins.
Oh, my God. He must be freaking out that he's still on the roster.
If a team had picked him up, and this is exactly what he did. I mean, he came from the White Sox, and you thought, why are we getting this guy? This guy's going to help. I thought Kim Ng was out of her mind. You had a guy that was hitting 220 with a lot of strikeouts, and he had, I think, 20-some-odd home runs, a low number of 20s in home runs, and didn't look all that appealing to me. It didn't look like he was going to be much of a help, and he caught fire, and then it turned out great. But and last year, I mean, he was okay. But this year, he was off the mark kind of slowly, and yet, it was for Marlins standards. And this is something, I mean, you ask, what's wrong with baseball, Lubie? We were talking about this a little bit yesterday, and my obsession with batting averages being a measuring stick. I'm looking at a stat here in this guy's handicapping column. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is what it's come down to. It's pathetic. It really is, where, this guy's recommending that you bet the A's over the Mets today.
Okay.
All right. So part of the logic is the A's have surrendered the fourth fewest home runs while residing in the top 3 in, get this category, Louie. Have you ever heard of this? Expected weighted on-base average contact.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Expected weighted on-base average contact, which is symbolized by a lowercase xw, capital OBA, and CON, expected weighted on-base average contact. So what does that measure, Lubie? And why would you even get that? I mean, infinitesimal. I mean,
I don't know what any of this stuff. I don't know.
This reveals that the batted balls the A's are relinquishing aren't consistently at optimal launch angles or high exit velocity.
What's funny is these are stats that actually are helpful. These are stats, the kind of things we want to know. Okay, what does it really mean? What we're seeing?
All right, so the A's pitchers aren't getting hammered. Basically, is what he's saying.
But that's the thing.
When people make contact, they don't make great contact.
Yeah, look, and that's the thing is, and these are definitely things that are useful from a fielding standpoint, from a pitching standpoint, from a catching standpoint, from a hitting standpoint. Okay, these are all useful stats. But you started going, and I zoomed out and started looking at the birds and about what.
Well, I mean, it doesn't take into account that when a guy hangs a curveball belt high over the middle of the plate, that all of that shit goes right out the window, doesn't it? But take this stat. I mean, this is what's wrong. If you look at the National League batting average leaders, Lubie, I took a look at this today, and I was shocked because they were discussing during a ball game, some game I was watching, how I guess it was the Phillies game where you had Trey Turner, who was hitting like 301 going into last night's game.
That leads because I'm looking at the overall, and I still think it's amazing that only 9 people across baseball are over
300 or above,
and that includes 3 at 301 and 2 at 306. Which
yes, Louis Urias leads the National League with a 306 batting average, which is low for
I'm not
him.
counting him. Why don't I see him whenever I
And
look at
they had one other guy going into. I guess this would have been yesterday's play.
Ozuna's batting 301.
That's it.
He's
And
tied
Turner,
with two other. Oh no, they're not even in the NL. He's the only one I see, I guess, without a ride.
How is that possible? When you used to look at this thing and you got to, we're not even quite. I guess we're mid-August, right at mid-August.
340, 350. You'd have guys like breaking, like.
But you would get to like number 9 or 10, and then look at this statistic in disgust as a baseball fan and say, "Can you believe that? The 9th guy in the American League's only hitting 299." And you're thinking, at least there were like 8 other guys that were above 300. This is pathetic. So I don't know. Do these stats have even more meaning as a result of the fact that nobody hits the ball anymore?
Yes, I mean, that's what they're saying. Look, and they break down the game in a great way, but they've done too good of a job because now no one can fucking hit.
What is that? I mean, literally 2 guys above 300. 2 guys.
So good now is what it's saying. That's why they accept strikeouts, because they're like, pitchers are so good now. And the stats are so skewed toward the pitchers that, oh shit, you got a hit. Look at you. You got a hit. Like, it's like shocking that they get a hit. They're like surprised. Like, I know baseball was always 30% is good, blah, 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 blah. But it wasn't great though. Like, you'd still want to hit 350, like now it's like 280 is good. Like, oh look, he's hitting
280 is Hall of Fame. It really is. It's insane. I mean, maybe I just obviously, I'm an old fart, and I was watching the game 50, 60 years ago when I was, at the optimum of my fandom for Major League Baseball. And so, okay, the standards are different all across the board in a lot of different areas. But it does seem impossible that you would only have 2 guys in an entire league that were capable of hitting and scratching out 300.
That's weird.
Didn't he ask when he won the Triple Crown? Didn't he only hit like 301 that year?
There's years where guys hit like 315, like a Bill Miller.
But you'd have at least a handful of guys that were in the category.
But that's rare though. Like, you'd usually have guys hitting 350, hitting 340, hitting 330. You'd have a ton of guys hitting in the 310s, like 310, 312, like it wasn't the whole baseball 9 guys. One League 2, the other 7. Like, and there's only 4 guys hitting 320 or higher in all of baseball, and they're all in the American League. Like, what the fuck? I don't know.
I mean, and how is it that Aaron Judge is able to hit for average and Soto? When Soto hits 3 home runs in the Yankees game last night, but do games and accomplishments count if they're against the White Sox? That's another question.
I don't know. That's a good question.
Something else to bring into the equation. All right, we have Tony's with us. I'm ready. Wow, we didn't really do much there. I mean, you had your overview of college football and just BSing about batting averages. And somehow we're a half hour in the show, and that means Tony Segreto joins us here on the program, brought to you by Texas Roadhouse Restaurants.
Yes,
and looking better and better every day, Tony. I mean, you talk about like getting better with age, man. You look good, kid. How are you?
Doing great. I'm listening. You guys are all over the board today.
Well, as usual. I mean, I'm amazed. I'm sure you feel the same way, Tony, because you're an old school baseball guy. But I mean, I remember doing this as a kid because I was huge in following statistics, and batting average was a big one for me. Not like I ignored power numbers or anything. I mean, everybody loves the long ball. Chicks dig the long ball. So you're looking at home runs and hits and things like that. But I remember I used to look at the top 10, and you get that little capsulization there, and it was like this big and agate type. And you'd see the top 10 batting averages in the league. You want to see who's leading the league and who's got a shot to win the title.
10th would be 325.
Yeah, exactly.
350. One guy like Elston Howard was out there hitting 350.
It's ridiculous. 301. That's ridiculous.
Well, and it's not that. I mean, the 301 I can deal with.
Guy. He's a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, but how do you have 2 guys in the whole league that are hitting 300 or better, and it's 301 and 306? It seems impossible.
They got to do something about it because no one wants to go see, as good as they are and as exciting as they can be. Nobody wants to see a pitching duel. Or
I don't mind a pitching duel.
A pitcher's duel because the guy's out by the 5th inning, so the guy doesn't even get credit for it. That's my problem. I know most people never wanted a pitcher's duel, but some people like me didn't mind one, right? Because when I would see Greg Maddux and the Marlins would have Kevin Brown, and you'd see them going fucking toe to toe into the 7th inning, it could actually be interesting. The problem is they've ruined that too, right? Like, you want to score runs, but the way they score runs is boring, and then No pitcher finishes a game. I think Blake Snell the other day finished his first game in like 2 or 3 years. A guy who's won 2 Cy Youngs. Like, that's the problem is they've even ruined pitching now because no one goes to 100 pitch. No one. I don't know where they go to pitching wise, and no one gets to 6 innings.
6th inning. That's it. That's all you want.
They get out. They get pulled in the 4th inning, in the 3rd inning. You know, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Well, I mean, a big thing is made of not facing a guy the 3rd time around, and you'll see like the escalating batting averages. A guy pitches to a 140 batting average the first time he faces the lineup.
How come it didn't affect Whitey Ford?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and the pitchers duel. Getting back to that, I mean, the only reason I hated a pitchers duel, going back to when I was a vendor at Shea, was because you would get Gibson and Seaver. And the game, as fascinating as it was, what would take an hour and 42 minutes.
Yeah.
So we didn't have time to sell any shit. But other than that, I mean, it was great. I mean, to watch these two guys go at it. And you knew they were probably both going to go the distance, extra inning or two. Not that I need to see that. I mean, I don't mind. There are a lot of great pitchers coming out of the bullpen. Fantastic. And you look at some of the stuff that these guys have, and I mean, could you hit this shit, Tony? If you were watching, I'm watching some guy throwing some wicked, like 90-mile-an-hour sinker last night, and I'm thinking no one could hit that, right? I mean, the ball, it's right around the letters, and the next thing you know, it's at his shoe tops.
Yeah.
Like Mike Scott throwing that forkball back in the day.
Start checking the pitchers. You know, they're cutting the ball or something like that because no one's hitting it. No one.
Maybe they just have good stuff. I don't even mean to imply cheating. It's just, I could see where more guys have more good stuff, and the stuff is beyond the scope of even what we saw from like Koufax and Gibson and these kind of pitchers. I mean, the ball's doing things that I don't know if it's been mutilated, but that it's never done before.
Yeah, never.
With the sharpness. I mean, it's pretty amazing to me. I mean, I was shocked when I saw that yesterday because I was listening to the announcers and they were talking about how Marcell Ozuna was hitting 301 and that Trey Turner was right there. That somehow that made him 3rd in the league. And I'm thinking, no way. I mean, you had to go like all the way down to like the 10th guy in the top 10 to get to a guy that was hitting 299, and then you thought that was a disgrace.
Well, that was just your league. That wasn't all of baseball. Like, look, on a team, you could have an average lineup, and your 3rd or 4th guy would hit 300. Like, your best guy is hitting 300 now, and you're happy with both guys.
Whole lineups of winning teams don't have a 300 hitter.
Just take the old time Yankees. You know, Richardson, Kubek.
You must have 7.
We hated Clete Boyer because he only hit 250 with 20 home runs. We thought he was a stiff.
Yeah.
Greatest fielder at third base maybe in the history of the game. You could make that case. I've done it before. People say, because he didn't have the popularity of a Brooks Robinson or whatever, and people, say Mike Schmidt, maybe Caminiti. Yeah. But anyway, sort of interesting. I'm only paying attention to baseball, though, Tony, because I had to go out on a limb. I started this thing called Bury Your Bookie. All right, so the first couple of days, my intention was to have other handicappers come on and help people bury their bookie because nobody would want to be relying on my selections, Tony. So because I was unfamiliar with the technology, I didn't really want to bring in a guest here. Lubie's not running this thing for me, so I'm doing it on my own. And you know me, I'm technologically challenged. It was amazing I could set up that radio equipment back in the day. And so I've done my first 2 predictions on the show under the premise that I am going to help you bury your bookie. Now, you know that is a futile endeavor on my part. I mean, if anything, it's just the opposite. I should be gargling with embalming fluid. So I give out a winner the first night, cruised 6-1 Astros over the Rays. And then I take a shot last night with the Nationals, taking a stand against the former Marlin Trevor Rogers, who I saw his opening appearance with the Orioles, who acquire him to shore up their rotation as they make a pennant run. And I thought, wow, I mean, this is the one time it's advantageous to be a Marlin fan or have been a Marlin fan. Because I know this guy sucks. Whatever he was as a rookie with all of his promise, did he win Rookie of the Year, Trevor Rogers? He was a candidate, wasn't he?
He was like an all-star. I mean, he was really good.
And then he just fell off a cliff, Tony. I don't know that you've seen a sharp decline like this.
I've seen it, and it's a quick decline. Quick decline.
So you had to figure, take a stance against this guy. I saw him get shelled. I guess he made a subsequent start to that, maybe even 2. and it didn't do anything that was going to knock your socks off. So he ends up losing the game. But I'm following this thing on my computer, Tony, because I was so desperate. Because you know how it is when your reputation is at stake.
Yeah.
It's even more, nerve-wracking than having money on the line, right? Money, maybe you can find another way to get some more.
Reputation is another thing.
Oh no!
How could you be a loser on Bury Your Bookie on the first two shows? So did you ever do this? It's been a while. I started to mention this, because the best betting thing I was ever involved in my life was this pool where you had to pick a team. Follow this for a second. You had to pick a team to go 500 or better for the week. And it was a survivor type structure, but you got 3 strikes. In other words, let's say you picked the Mets opening week and they went 2-4. Now you had 1 strike. But at that point, you couldn't use them again.
Yeah.
All right. So you got 2 strikes. And my partner and I, we get 2 strikes in the first 2 weeks. Neither of our teams go 500.
Oh, God.
And we went the rest of the season without losing again.
Oh, shit.
Even though we were picking teams. You're forced to pick teams that have no chance, right? I mean, you're forced to pick like the White Sox at this point.
We should do that for football.
Well, and you have survivor pools in football, but it's 1 strike and you're out, which makes sense.
Yeah.
But in the course of being involved in this, I'm watching the games on my computer like a real baseball. I mean, you have to be insanely involved in a game to go. And they chart every pitch. Have you ever done this? Followed a baseball game in this fashion? You don't see the game.
Yeah.
But they have like the guys batting and this, and they have the outs and all of this stuff, and they got like base paths.
I used to chart when I scouted for one season. I charted every pitch of every game.
Oh, Jesus!
You did? Wow! And were you betting on these games also? And was it advantageous to have that much knowledge? No. This was insane, though, because in the 8th inning, the Nationals bring in a guy named Jose Ferrer, a reliever, right? And I'm thinking, he's a jockey at Monmouth Park, Jose Ferrer. Did you ever interview Jose Ferrer when he was down here in South Florida? I'm like, they're bringing in a fucking jockey? I'm up 6-2.
That's what I thought.
Crazy shit. All right, we're going to come back. Ed Garcia is going to join us from Texas Roadhouse Restaurant. I would imagine he's just got to have goosebumps, no?
Hey, you know what? College football is right around the corner.
Almost here, man.
It's going to be a heck of a season, especially with 12-game playoff now.
Yep.
It's going to be special. It's going to be special. So let's get to the break. We'll call.
How about that, Tony, man? Producing on the fly. I like that. All right. You want to throw it to the time thing? Just say we'll be back in a moment. Now that. Go ahead, try that.
Time 8:42.
No, we don't want you to give the time. We want you to introduce Johnny out of here. Can you do it?
Say now that.
I mean, Jason Taylor demanded that we let him do it on the show on Radio Row. We were like, oh, shit, man. Well, we thought he was going to tell us the show sucked and he didn't want to be on it. Turns out he wants to do the intros and the throws. All right, we'll be back with more. Tony Segreto, Ed Garcia in a moment. Now that.
The time.
What time did you say it was, Tony?
8:43 now.
All right, that's good enough.
Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back,
back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Texas Roadhouse.
Tell me, doctor, where are we going this time?
All right, there he is. Welcome back to the show. We have Mike Lubie, the great one. And joining us right now from Texas Roadhouse Restaurants is Ed Garcia. And Ed, as a matter of introduction, I'm looking at this thread on Let's Eat South Florida, the Mike Mayo Sun Sentinel thing. And somebody had posed a question, Outback or Longhorn, okay? Outback or Longhorn. That was the proposition, and it was just like one of those things like, which one of the two do you like? And I can't tell you how many people on this thread put Texas Roadhouse and just said, forget about that crap. Let's get the real deal. So congratulations. Reputation is impeccable, my friend. And thanks for joining us.
Absolutely. No, I'm very, very blessed. Actually hanging out here in near Lake Park area, getting ready to, rock and roll with the new one. And, very good news. Also, we just signed a deal for Hialeah. So we're going to be coming to Hialeah.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah. And Tony, I know you're going to ask me about Davey. We put an offer on Davey yesterday, as a matter of fact. So fingers crossed, and that they accept. So
where's the building?
Back that same building on Pinecrest and 84.
Where the old
Mexican
Roadhouse
place was.
used to be,
Correct. So they took another offer originally, and that company, I guess their financing fell through, so they came back to Texas Roadhouse.
Oh,
so
nice.
I'll take it. Yeah,
nice. That's a great area. The 84 area.
We'll hope, but we'll hope and we'll hope and we'll hope.
Yes. So I'm working on it real hard for you, but it's coming together.
So Ed, you got a new coach. You got a new quarterback.
Yep.
Tell us your thoughts.
I'll tell you, we open up with Fresno State. That one should be, we're really going to learn a little bit about that team. We're probably going to see a lot of passing. And again, I don't want to over assume, but it's, being that we're playing Fresno State. However, the following week, which I will be there with a University of Texas alum, I want to say that's September 8th. That is going to be the game. I mean, two top 10 teams right now with the pre-college football rankings, Texas and Michigan going at each other. We're going to learn a lot. I did hear that, our quarterback, may have tore his meniscus. I haven't had a lot of time to research yet, but, we do have another backup orgy. We'll see what's going to happen. But I will say, I don't know if you saw the highlights, but, everybody that says that J.J. McCarthy can't throw the ball, he looked pretty awesome with Minnesota this past weekend. But I did hear yesterday he also got injured as well.
Torn meniscus.
Meniscus needs surgery.
Meniscus. He's out for a while.
Meniscus, yeah.
Meniscus injuries, though, can be more quickly overcome than in the past. Not as devastating.
I think, yeah.
Not always, though. I mean, we've seen guys come back in a couple of weeks from torn meniscus injury. So it depends on the extent of it. But, he looked good. I mean, all of a sudden, people were singing the praises of the Vikings, thinking that they had their quarterback situation, they labeled it fairly strong.
Yeah.
And now it's, you got Sam Darnold, I guess, going to start for them.
Do you think it's fair to put them as high as they did or as low as they have been?
As far as Michigan,
yeah,
I feel like we're in a good spot. I feel that, that number one spot needs to be earned. We did have a lot of people. I had a few other people, ask me that question. They couldn't believe, how low it was. They were national champions last year. And I don't remember the specific number, but I think 15, 17 went into the NFL. I mean, that's a really awesome graduating class. And, there is a new coach. Granted, Coach Moore did coach 4 of those games, including beating the Buckeyes, which the stress and the anxiety alone, I mean, I wouldn't be able to sleep for a week leading up to that if I was coaching. That's insane. I mean, the big game, but, I think that, they're going to earn their spots. It's going to be a really exciting college football season. I mean, the Ducks, Texas, Michigan, Ohio State,
exploded.
They are loaded.
Well, and looking at Alabama, it's funny because they did lose Saban, but they did bring in a guy that was in the championship game last year. So like, DeBoer is not a slouch. So Alabama, this is as open a season, but it is also interesting, especially with the 12-team playoffs. So now it allows some other teams to have a chance. Like it feels like it's going to be exciting from week 1 all the way through.
Yeah.
I agree. The line, the Big Ten's changed a lot too. So the competition is going to be insane with everybody that's in there. So I'll tell you, it is going to be a very different college football season. Very excited.
You got to factor in the Irish, because where do they fit in?
Yeah, they're top 10 right now.
Yeah, where do they fit in?
I hope nowhere. I know Tony doesn't like that. But,
well, that's like
I root for the Irish to lose every game. I really do.
My son went there, so
I was hoping that they would call Rudy for being offsides. I've mentioned that before. He was offsides on that play.
Where did they get ranked, by the way, Tony? Where are they sitting?
They're like 7 or 8.
They're 7th.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They bring back a lot. I mean, it's his fourth and second or third year, and I think I know they lost the Wake Forest guy, but they brought in, I think, another transfer. Didn't they bring in I'm gonna have to look it up. I thought they brought in another strong transfer, and the lines are always strong, and this is a big year for him. I mean, because last year they were a little bit improved but struggled at times. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what to do with Notre Dame.
Where does Miami fit in?
Here's a question for both of you. We know Lubie's opinion on this. We got into detail on it earlier this morning. But Tony and I have a funny feeling I know where you stand. I'm not sure where Ed lands on this one, but Mario Cristobal. Is he a quality, top-notch head coach?
This year will tell the tale of the tape. This year, because he's had a couple of years to forge his team like he wants it, and now he's got to perform, and he's got to make some game day decisions, and he as a game day coach, it's questionable whether he's good or not. Plain and simple.
Yeah. I mean, we thought that we were talking about that Butch Davis that first year. There was a lot of chaos on the sidelines. I didn't think he was a brilliant game day coach, but he certainly was a brilliant recruiter. And he knew how to get mileage out of players. So what do you think, Ed? Mario Cristobal, honest opinion, it shouldn't jeopardize the traffic at any of these South Florida locations, including the upcoming one in Hialeah and possibly Davie.
I'm a lot, in line with Tony. I feel, it took Harbaugh 9 seasons to get the Natty, and this is going to be a season to define. He's had enough time in tenure. Has really brought in some really awesome,
quality
people and players into the team, and quality. It's hey, you got to provide the results. No more talk. We need to get Mario needs to get a couple of big games under the belt and continue to build that legacy. If not, it's going to be the shaky ice that Harbaugh was on there for a little bit when he was getting a little excited with all the TV commercials and everything else. They're like, hey, you need to put your nose back down and get that grind going on.
They're not gonna fire him.
No.
How many more years has he got left in that hideous contract?
10-year deal or an 8-year? It's a 10-year deal.
Yeah.
10-year.
Did you have to sacrifice any of your personal cash to help pay Cristobal in your various consulting roles with the University of Miami?
My contribution to the Alumni Association went to Cristobal's contract.
All of a sudden, that looks like my homeowners association bill. We just keep factoring in more and more, sticks. I don't know. I haven't been overwhelmingly impressed. That game that he lost last year with the butt fumble or whatever that was. I mean, that was insane. It was impossible to lose that game. When you're a coach and you lose a game or a manager, that it's impossible, virtually mathematically impossible to lose.
That'll haunt him the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Especially if they don't turn it around like that. Look, in year 2 for Mike Norvell, FSU lost to Jacksonville State. They not lost to Jacksonville State. They lost on a goddamn 4th down Hail Mary play that is mathematically impossible to score on. You just put 6 guys back. You knock the fucking ball down. Pardon my French, Ed. To this day, I have passion about it, but I think they went and won 5 of the next 8. They went to Clemson and almost beat Clemson. And Jermaine Johnson was drafted first round, and then the next year they won 10 games, right? So it was literally the first time we lost to a borderline or an FCS team in school history. It was one of the saddest days of any of my fandom. But Norvell turned around from that point on. Like, from week to week, they were vastly better. The problem for Cristobal is, and it's why Defo still remembers the goddamn non-kneel down, is because Miami didn't get better after that. Miami actually somehow got worse after that. So that became the epitome of Cristobal on the coaching, right? Coaches screw up. Coaches lose games. What do they do after that is what defines them. And for Cristobal, his problem is he let it define him. Instead of going, all right, guys, I don't know what the hell that was. We're going to just dominate. Again, they lost to Rutgers, and they were getting demolished by Rutgers until the end of the game when they made it look a little prettier. Like, I don't think that has to define him. I think it has defined him because of the way he's coached. And I look, if they go and win 11 games this year, no one will give a shit about the kneel down. If he's smart, he'll joke about it. You know, like, the problem is he doesn't have the personality. He doesn't like talking at all, which I don't understand for like a Miami dude. Like, I've never met a Miami guy that talks so little. Like, Miami guys, even the quiet Miami guys talk. Like, the dude played football his whole life, played under Jimmy Johnson at Miami, and he never talks. It's like,
I remember Jimmy used to just call like talk radio shows in the morning on his way into the office and say, "Hey, listen, I don't like what you're saying about the team. You're dead wrong, DeForest."
Jimmy was outstanding.
You can't get Cristobal, to say anything.
So that's
true,
Lubie. He let it die. He let it sit there. He didn't make fun of it, which a guy like Jim.
Why did you let him get started, Defo?
No, it's
Why
fine.
did you let
I like his passion. It's very similar to Ed's passion for the Michigan Wolverines. And it's just one of those weird things where people look at a guy and they refuse to look at the truth. Very much like we see in politics where the stuff's on the surface. He had these same problems at Oregon. He had great talent there.
Yes.
And there was a regression with people that he had a quarterback. Anyway, let's hope it works out, huh? Does he eat at Texas Roadhouse? Is there anything redeeming about this man that we can say his tenure in Miami was a success? Does he get the bone-in ribeye at Texas Roadhouse at any time?
We have been feeding the team quite a bit this past season.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. No wonder they won a few games. All right, good.
Yes. So,
Very, very nice. All right, what's happening with the Texas Roadhouse restaurants? Expansion, obviously.
yes.
And still an amazing thing because I think I had like a $70 ribeye at a casino restaurant when I was in Atlantic City. And I was thinking the $32 variety there at Texas Roadhouse is just as good, if not better.
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, school's starting up a lot in the Miami area.
Yep.
So, people are getting back into their routine with the kids going back. And hey, something that we do, all my locations in South Florida do a kids' night on Tuesday. It is Lubie's one of his favorite things to come to because he loves to color and play with the crafts.
Yep.
But Andy the Armadillo also makes an appearance, which is super awesome.
Nice.
Our big mascot. And I don't know if you saw, I should send you some pictures, but Andy actually made a big debut at Miami Marlins. So he was one out of the 30 people that came to the game. And
I think I saw this. Yes, they made a big deal of it.
No,
You're right.
but Andy ran a few bases, was hanging out with some of the kids. It was really, really cool, but made a great appearance there. But, that's on Tuesdays nights. That's one of the cool things about Texas. You can bring your family, you can bring your kids. It's already a loud restaurant, but Tuesday, we just kind of carve out a little bit from 4 to 8 p.m. for kids. That's something that we do, but with back to school, instead of going to some of these other fast food chains and this, that, or anything else, you can come in and have an awesome meal for yourself and make sure your child gets a great meal, great lunch, all that good stuff. So other than that, we still got our early dine Monday through Thursday. We have multiple items, about 15 items, for $11.99, including a 6-ounce sirloin, which comes with a salad. And if you want a 1-pound sweet potato, you can't go wrong with that. And a lot of other great stuff going on. So come check us out. We'd love to have you inside Texas Roadhouse.
Ed, I on my way up and back from Vermont, I plan my stops according to a Texas Roadhouse exit. I do.
I love it.
I do. So it's such a great place. Just try it, folks. Just try it and see what we mean, because it's a classic. It's where everybody knows your name.
Well, in these tough economic times, as everybody's always alluding to, it is amazing that you guys can keep your prices at the point that you have them, because, we know that food costs, the escalation, and especially with meat, has been outrageous and very tough for a lot of people, to contend with in the restaurant business. So congratulations on all of that,
Thank
Ed.
you.
Good luck. When's the opening game? Your Wolverines, Fresno State.
2 weeks, right?
It's the 30th, I want to say.
Couple of weeks. All right.
Yes.
We're getting close.
Week 1. Next week's week 0. But at least next time when we talk to you, we'll have college football on the horizon. So there you go.
It'll be nice. Ed Garcia, ladies and gentlemen, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. All right, Tony, good job, man.
You can't beat his passion.
No,
He's great. And you know what? It really is true. I mean, since we've been doing this restaurant show, we come in contact with a lot of restaurant owners and concepts and approaches. And I mean, the Texas Roadhouse model is pretty incredible.
It is.
It really is amazing.
It is, and it stays true to itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to say that. Yeah,
and they're methodical on how they do their thing, and Lubie and I can testify. They make everything there.
You can tell the difference, when the food comes out, and just from a flavor standpoint, everything you can tell. This isn't something they got at Restaurant Depot.
Nope.
And, it came frozen and you could get the same shit, at 20 other places. No, it really is good, Tone. Yeah. All right. How's, we don't even want to ask because it's been a veritable blast furnace here in South Florida. We hate you, Tony Segreto.
It's 55 right now.
Oh, get the fuck out of here.
55.
You've got to be kidding me. I walk my dog at 6:45 in the morning and I'm sweating. Literally, it's 6:45 and I'm fucking sweating.
I was happy to get drenched in the rain the last half mile I was walking yesterday. I really was. I felt like Fred fucking Astaire, man. And I'm like dancing home. Normally, I would have been thinking, "Oh my god, what a mess this is." But it was so hot before that. I mean, just steaming.
It's steaming.
It was ridiculous. Yeah, I mean, I was schwitzed out to the point where.
No, I presume you wouldn't.
We're ablaze down here, Tony. All right, we love you, Tony Segreto, and thanks so much for being with us as always.
See you next week.
Okay, sounds good, my friend. Sounds good. Tony Segreto, ladies and gentlemen. All right, Tony was in good spirits today. That's good. They dodged a Cristobal question as Ed Garcia kind of passed around it too.
I think because Andy joked about it last week when I was talking to Segreto, and he's like, "Has he learned how to kneel down yet?" And it's like it's. Didn't
the next game they like barely skated by in overtime against another schmink opponent?
That's the problem.
And he was like, and he had made like several of those same kind of bonehead decisions.
And he didn't kneel down again, and he avoided kneeling down again.
Like really stupid stuff. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it wasn't that last year. I mean, after that game, the next game was even more horrendous, but they somehow won it, and so he was forgiven.
I mean, they struggled almost every game after that. Like. That's why it's been remembered so much. Again, people forget. FSU fans remember, and FSU rival fans remember the Jacksonville State game, but everyone else forgets it because FSU after that point, I think, went on to win like 26 of the next like 30 games, like some stupid ass stat from the middle of year 2. Because remember, they went undefeated last year. Middle of year 2 to the end of last year, they had some ridiculous records. So it's like, okay, if you're going to have a loss like that, at least learn from it. Like that's the problem with Cristobal, and that's why it's
that one. It was, sorry to interrupt there, Louie, but that one was so inexcusable that I don't even think you can look at it that way. You just have to look at it and say, no head coach that's considered to be top tier or even mediocre, no head coach at a JUCO somewhere in the middle of the sticks of Texas could ever make a mistake like that and continue coaching. That was so egregious, so outrageous, so pathetic that there's no justification for it. To sit there and say you learn your lesson, this had to be known prior to the fact. No, Lubie? I mean, you couldn't possibly be this stupid, could you?
Well, obviously. Look, it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen because even the Florida State thing, it was you should go to prevent. But I think there was I don't know. They overthought it, and I think that was as dumb as it gets.
The guy just has to take a fucking knee, literally. I mean, that's it. The simplest play in football, the victory formation.
Yes.
I mean, if your team is losing by a point, you hate it. You're disgusted by it. And if you're winning, it's like, go ahead, rush the passer.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, and that's it. And the clock evaporates. It goes to 0, and Cristobal's a winner.
Yes.
Instead, what? You're going to run the ball up the fucking middle? With every guy, the only mission they have at that point, the only chance they have is to swipe it out of your hands.
Yep.
And then not only lose the ball, but 2 plays later with like 6 seconds to go in a game, you give up like a 90-yard pass play. I forgot about the back end of that. It was even more disgusting.
The whole thing was bad. Look, and again, that's the kind of thing no one would ever forget. Yeah. But if they went on to win the next 8 games, there's only so much people would care about it. The problem is look, it underscores who he is. He did make that mistake, and there's a reason he made that mistake, and that's why you did see them play the way they played.
Beyond unforgivable, though. I mean, it's a bozoic move. You would have to immediately institute and organize an investigation into whether or not Mario Cristobal deliberately threw that ball game.
He was throwing it.
I would have thought, never mind the officials there. I mean, the FBI should have been involved in that one. That's crazy. Did he ever have to answer questions about that?
I don't think so.
We got those guys at Temple that were shaving points.
Exactly.
All right, we have to get out of here. Pleasure being with you. Thanks so much for joining us here on the show. Thanks to Tony Segreto, Ed Garcia, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. For Michael Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. We will see you next time as we leave you know that.
The time.
It's 9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my show.